Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chris Alderson. I'm the CE at Construction Health and Safety New Zealand Trust, or CHASNZ. And I'd like to welcome you all to our latest series in our webinar series, which is Work Should Not Hurt Our Scaffolders. So today, a little bit different. Last time we had our world famous Mark Halliwell talking to us about high energy controls assessments. Today we have world famous in New Zealand with a lot of local talent that we're very, very happy to have on board with us. So this webinar is straight from the front line, which is what we like. We've got a number of guests we'll talk to in a minute, and they'll introduce themselves. I might add though, because it is straight from the front line, we should have probably put a PGR rating on it, because we take people as they come and we wouldn't have it any other way. But what you'll hear is, the honest truths today in the language from the site, from some really passionate people. So just forewarned is forearmed. So look, why are we focused on this area, and what is Work Should Not Hurt? So Work Should Not Hurt is our program that we've been running for around about 2 years now, focused on reducing harm within particularly the specialist trades, residential, construction, small businesses, and in particular it's to do with muscular strains and sprains and musculoskeletal disease. So why is this an issue? And I think we would see it probably as a little bit of a dirty secret within construction. It's something that's probably ever present across our sites. And when we're trying to build a thriving construction sector, what we really want is people to have long, healthy careers. And unfortunately, for a lot of our men and women across the sector, that's simply not happening. Which is morally, economically, from every perspective, just not acceptable. So that's why we're focused on it. If you think about the amount of time and effort over the last sort of 10 years we've spent on, impairment, particularly around drugs and alcohol, and being worried about what that has in terms of impaired people on the site leading to greater injuries, well, we believe this is even bigger. Because look, it's not just the tip of the iceberg, it's probably the whole iceberg that we're looking at in terms of how our people are being, what they're actually suffering today. So typically what we see is relatively young people entering the industry in their late teens, early 20s. They do present probably with their first significant injury to their back, their shoulder, their knee, one of their major joints by the time they're in the early 20s. And then they represent every couple of years with a significant problem until they get to about their mid-30s, and then they're actually probably thinking about leaving the industry, and they're definitely old before their time and not having a good life. So that's a very typical profile, unfortunately, of our construction people. And again, it's something that we want to change, which is what the Work Should Not Hurt program is all about. And obviously you can understand that that's economically not sound, particularly if you're a sole trader or a very small business. Look, your biggest asset isn't your Ford Ranger sitting over there, it's actually your body. And that's what our younger people are really starting to realise. So I'm going to hand you over to the panel in a minute, and Chris, I think, will take charge of introducing everybody, and probably from our perspective, I'll just remind you that, look, if you've got questions, we love questions. Please use the Q&A today for those questions. So we'll run for about 45 minutes, and then the Q&A, we'll get some good stuff through there. We will be putting this webinar online as we usually do, probably early next week, and sending out some links to some more information about that. So if you're curious about how to take this forward, absolutely, we can do that. So what I'll do now is really just talk through. I've just talked through the agenda there quickly. We're going to spend about 45 minutes with the team, and let's actually flick over to the team right now. I might just get Chris as the leader of Work Should Not Hurt from the CHASNZ perspective to start off with and introduce themselves, and then we'll just go in order from there. So thanks, Chris, over to you.
Yes, Chris, kia ora koutou, Chris Palachuk. I'm the resident ergonomist at CHASNZ. Privileged to be part of this musculoskeletal task force and to be amongst these great people.
Kia ora koutou, Vadim Spice, a scaffolder by trade. They don't do too much of it right now. I've made a career actually of working alongside our scaffolders. I'm in the training field and supporting role. So I find myself on sites encouraging and supporting our scaffolders.
Kia ora koutou, ko Tina Wazora tōku ingoa. So I'm the CEO of Scaffolding, Access and Rigging New Zealand. We're the association body for those sectors. I'm really excited to be here as part of this panel today.
Hello everybody, it's David Stock, Health and Safety Manager for Industrial Site Services. And when I joined the industry, I quickly recognised that sprains and strains and manual handling is our biggest risk that causes injuries within our industry.
Okay. So when we had a bit of a blank canvas, we had a look at the data, and we were lucky enough to get a full suite of claims data from ACC. So we mined into that data, and we weren't surprised to find what we found. Predominantly, the lion's share of the harm is happening to the lower backs of scaffolders, attracting quite a staggering, each claim attracts about 32 days off work. So you can imagine how much disability this is actually causing and lost productivity. Closely sort of followed by shoulder problems and knee problems, roughly the same amount from the ACC claims data. There's quite a few explanations for why these can occur, but basically I think the backs problems, scaffolding is an extremely physically demanding task, probably the most physically demanding of all trades. Shoulder injuries are often caused by your arms being held in abduction or up here, your shoulders, and the strains that causes, and obviously your knees from tasks that are low down, firing, kneeling on hard surfaces like scaffolding decks, which are just like cheese graters, if you've ever seen them. So imagine kneeling on one of those, not so good for your knees. Basically, we calculated that all of this time off in 1 year, that cost the industry over 2 million metres of scaffolding not being erected. We could really have done with that scaffolding being put up, but that's our estimate of lost productivity, and we see that time off is actually on the increase. It's increased significantly since 2015, and it's still on the rise. So we've got that within our target. We've taken around the country our wall of pain, which is our way of collecting data to support what we've got from ACC. And you see here a wall of pain chart by 18 scaffolders. And you'll be interested to see those sites of the shoulder, the lower back and the knees cropped up. You'll be doubly interested to see some other odd sites, like there's a couple of pain spots on the helmet, which is indicating the mind and body is stressed in scaffolding. And humorously enough, there is always a spot lower down on the posterior, and the scaffolders didn't disappoint us this time by placing one down there. So we all get pains like that from time to time. Vadim, I don't know if you have anything to add for that one.
Well, I do, only to support your points and Dave's earlier point as well. While ACC data is good to have. I think really when we started looking at what our people were telling us and actually listening to them, it became very apparent that what's actually hurting our people is the musculoskeletal type injuries, the manual handling type stuff and body stressing things. And I think it sounds a little bit silly to say we finally started listening to our people, but what we did is we prioritized and looked at how these injuries perceived. These are the type of injuries that it's not like the big critical stuff that we deal with every day. We've got these great courses on how to wear a harness and awesome advice around and guidance on setting up exclusion zones so we don't drop things on people, and that they're quite critical events. However, when it came to how our people who are receiving body stressing injuries were communicated to us, I mean, imagine going to the boss and saying, one of the guys got really hurt, and they always like, wow. But when you say, but it's okay, it's his shoulder, thank God, I thought they seriously got hurt. So, but then they're 2 weeks on ACC, and they're likely to it's likely to reoccur again if you don't do anything about it. So yeah, I encourage you to change how you're receiving the information from your people. Ask the right questions and note it. We now have quite a comprehensive, and our company quite a comprehensive database of injuries, and it's lapping injuries perceived from falling off stuff and dropping stuff on each other, which we're managing quite well. So what's really hurting our people, I think, once you listen to them and ask them the right questions, it'll be very, very obvious this is a huge cost, and financially too. You've got to consider that someone at home is not making money for you as well.
To assist us to identify the range of factors we were going to address, we came up with a model that we've actually used across the trades now, and this model actually outlines groups of factors that actually work together in unison to create compounded problems. So there's some very obvious physical factors, and these factors are supported by research and knowledge. So we know that overhead work is a big thing in scaffolding, and we suspect that's quite a big cause of the shoulder problems that we have. But we've also identified things that we can change and they're in our control, like the design of our trucks, how we lay out our yards, how we deal with the environment, and how we protect ourselves against that as well. So the physical factors are very, very apparent and easy to measure. Dave, I don't know if you had any ideas about, sorry, Chris, any ideas about the psychosocial issues?
Yeah, definitely there are, Chris, and it's quite interesting. I think Tina was recently in Australia and they were talking more about psychosocial factors as risks and how businesses are managing them. But yeah, most certainly they are probably something that's not so well understood here in New Zealand. And there's a number of things in there, communication between the workers, but also from the organisation to our workers, how we communicate to them, and the involvement of workers. There's we talk about consultation, but actually in the planning, and I know Vadim will talk about planning, the levels of control, the pace at which they work, that sort of stuff, and last of all, but not least, the good old macho attitudes, which are very strong within the industry, this trade. And a good example of that, I think, Chris, you experienced a conversation with some guys who were working with aluminium scaffolding, and everybody acknowledging that, hey, this is great stuff to work with. It's a lot lighter. It's a lot easier to carry in that. So let's load up our shoulders even more. We can carry more planks and achieve the work faster. And of course, that results in them just carrying the same weight as though they're carrying steel. So we don't achieve anything with that sort of attitude.
Yeah, definitely something to contribute around what we do in our space around the organisational factors. Obviously, we all know, being quite aware that some of the higher level of controls are well implemented or discussed before our people turn up to the workplace. So we put it on our quotas, and those commercial managers going out to talk to the clients, days and weeks before our workers even turn up, to talk around, what is the easiest access point? Can we reduce the amount of lifting and carrying? Really taking consideration of how the team's going to get in there and work quite efficiently, and reducing the amount of manual handling, which levers to both well-being and, of course, efficiency for a job. Because I find that, through my experience, I find what is perceived as a macho attitude generally tends to be, for our young people, a competitive streak, a competitive nature. To carry 3 and see someone carrying 4 would then just entice me to carry 5. So, while you might say it's sort of a macho attitude, I sort of challenge that thinking to more being, encouraging our young Kiwi people to be more competitive and turn things into gamify tasks. And so, I also find it challenging to go on site, and I do, and talk about how we've selected these controls. We've given you solutions here, and how have you picked the best? And to say, have you considered eliminating a risk to coalface workers on the day is a bit of a slap in the face, because they don't get to call up a crane or organise a hoist or a winch, or direct someone to set up a loading bay for them to turn up that's there for them. So those higher levels of controls certainly come well before our people turn up to the coalface to do the work.
Yeah, you were CHASNZ is instrumental in this whole project, and I wonder if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to come in. So I'm fairly new to CHASNZ. I've been with the association for just under 2 years. So when I came into this task force was already established under my wonderful predecessor, Jessica Pritchard, and her collaboration with CHASNZ. And I think pretty much right from the get-go, alongside the data, alongside the passion of the workforce that was already put together, and likewise with yourself, Chris, the passion, the knowledge, and the need for this in the sector was so overwhelming that it was pretty evident we needed to kind of continue moving forward with full force. So we have been lucky enough to have the knowledge of Chris for our sector, and he's been putting a hell of a lot of love and time into our sector as well. We've been really lucky. And like the rest of the panel have indicated as well, it's incredibly needed. It's such a massive factor for our industry at the moment. Not even considering the factors it's compounding on the top of 2 to 3 very volatile years with COVID. And when we're talking about those psychosocial factors as well, I think the generation that are coming through are wanting to see different types of working environments when they are choosing a job as well. So it's about working safely. It's about finding different ways to operate. And I think when everyone kind of looks at manual handling as well, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, if you don't know a lot about it, you're kind of expecting to be sat on a course, told how to lift a box properly, you bend from here and that's it. And the reason we found it so important to work alongside Chris and CHASNZ was that we understood that it needed to be applicable and practical for the industry, for them to actually be able to digest how it's going to be workable for them on the work site. And I think this is also what's been the really exciting thing about being able to kind of sit back and listen to the expertise on this panel and within this workforce group, is that it's been acknowledged as well that some of the solutions we've come up with, it needs to be understood that they're not practical in all work sites as well. So it's all about the collaboration. It's all about talking with your people. It's all about, like we were saying in that last slide, it's the planning, it's the understanding of what the job is going to consist of. But the overall arching theme is that, from the data that you've seen in the previous slides, is that us as a sector, we really need to get a better handle on it as well. So moving forward, we've been really lucky that we've had Chris along at our conference to present alongside David and Vadim with some of the work we have been doing, which went down really well. So they had the stall with the wall of panes so people could interact and have a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve in this space. I'm not sure how many of you have seen the work that's happening in the roofing space with this as well, but we also had exoskeleton along to kind of look at different options there as well. Another option that we have been looking into is the design of a scaffolding t-shirt. So we are in the really early stages of this, but it's been really interesting seeing the different perspectives. But we're really happy that we can kind of actually get some guys in the room that, like Chris said, they're on the tools, they're the frontline workers, and they actually understand what they need to be able to work better in a way that is actually going to help save their bodies. So this is still in the early stages. I'm not sure if we've got a prototype yet, but I believe we're not too far away, but it's looking pretty bloody efficient at the moment.
Yeah, no prototype quite yet, Tina, but we're inches away. Yeah, so what you see here is a photo of the design workshops that we've held for the shirt and the shoulder pad. It has relied on the participation of the industry, and the industry's come to the party. It's been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I must say, I mean, this is one project that we are more than willing to go out and find whatever funding we need to get this program underway. The resources that are going to come out of this, if it can save the amount of guys that are having to take days off, if it can save their longevity in the workforce, if it means they can still pick their kids up above shoulder height in their early 40s and for a very long time thereafter, that's incredibly important. Particularly, like I said, the ones that are coming into that workforce, they're wanting to see those sorts of factors incorporated into how they're being looked after holistically. And also the ones that are of an older generation that are still in the workforce, we need to keep them in the sector, and we need them to understand that we're trying to look after them in this space as well, because we don't want to lose that knowledge out of the sector either. So we are very glad that we will be having Chris in this panel presenting again at this year's conference. We've made a lot of progress in the last 12 months, thanks to Chris's just wild ambitiousness. The man does not rest.
You know, there is no I in team, as they say, and full credit to the people on the panel, really. The participation model has really worked really well for this industry, and it's got great potential for other industries as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are definitely seeing a massive benefit from it. I definitely envisage we will see further benefit from it for a very long time. And we're more than happy to say that we will absolutely be continuing to support this project for a long time to come.
Right off the wall of pain, people, this is how it's done. Talking to scaffolders, getting them to pop the sticker on the wall of pain. The colour for scaffolding stickers is yellow.
I think that's also what a great thing it was to actually have you there in person is our guys like to have that face-to-face communication, and they definitely are not lacking on holding back on their thoughts or opinions in this space. So what we are seeing here is definitely off the back of some very raw, unfiltered feedback from the sector, which is exactly what you need for it to be, like I said, practical, digestible, and implementable in a business as well.
Would you like to tell us about how we can implement some of this stuff and what we've done on that space?
Sorry, was that me? Because I'm going to. Yeah, I think Tina made a really good point earlier. Earlier in the piece, once we'd identified the issue and you know, given it a name and actually prioritised it for being something we need to address, we went looking on Google Images for some advice, and there's that same old guy lifting that box. He's never lifted that box up yet, but hopefully he carries on trying. He'll get there one day. But there was nothing that was relative to our people. It didn't look like our people. It didn't look like our work. It just didn't resonate. And I think one of the reasons we were stuck going nowhere is because there wasn't anything there really. There was some stuff out of the UK, which was really fantastic, but it was, you know, back in the 60s type stuff. And again, it didn't look like our people doing the type of work we do. We're a little bit different in New Zealand. We build some really cool things, and, you know, we're up there with leading the world in technology as well. So what we had done though is we needed to recognise that the industry wasn't lost. We weren't just going around, you know, falling all over ourselves and hurting ourselves. We'd come up with some pretty cool techniques and some pretty good innovations. And so we got together to sort of put that together. It started out with the good practice guidelines. You know, we've got a scaffolding good practice guidelines. Most industries do, and it's our Bible and it's our go-to. But to be honest with you, it's something you have to go and find and search out in the office, and we want to make sure that our people who need to know this stuff, or those that would communicate, teach and train it, would have some really handy resources. And so while having a source of knowledge is a great thing, that good practice guidelines, we wanted to make sure that we communicated this stuff out in a way that reflected the way our people wanted to receive it. And when I say our people, I mean anyone in the scaffolding industry, from the commercial manager to the administrator, right down to the person who drives the trucks, you know, and we're not down, but all encompassing. And they are clever people. They are not illiterate. Sometimes language challenges them because we speak in funny languages in New Zealand and in the commercial sector, you know, different terms, different slangs. And so we know that our very busy people like getting small, tangible, dynamic bites of information, a piece at a time that they can reflect on, throw away if it doesn't sit with them, because I build houses, I don't build hospitals, type thing. And that there's a selection or a variety of different resources available for the different things we do. So we came up with videos. I would use them in the past in some of my earlier work, and they seem to work really well. A little bit corny, a little bit homemade, a little bit YouTubey, but very professionally done, seems to resonate. And of course, it needs to look like our people doing our things. It's really important, you know, our people do courses and they see stock photos from Google Images of American construction sites, and it just doesn't seem relatable. So one thing we've done is once we got the good ideas and we got some good guidance, and we come up with some solutions to prevent it, raise awareness around it, and then manage it when we're out on the job. We created some little YouTube videos. We've got posters. Again, Chris, huge brain on the guy, came up with these really cool ways to disseminate out tangible, dynamic, bright, easily taken in ways of you know, taking in information. So these are designed for toolbox talks. They're designed for safety meetings. There's a series of them. You might pick 1, 3, and 6 because that relates to the type of work I do. And away you go. So I don't challenge you. I invite you to find your way into the CHASNZ website, to get into the Work Should Not Hurt program. There's other industries doing similar work who are partway through the journey. I like the fact that we can speak to you now and let you know how far we've come and what we're doing to help show the way, and get into that scaffold resource library. And you'll see, again, the posters are really cool. These videos we're very proud of. There's ACC data that's been turned into graphics that can be used for toolbox talks or in-house training. And the ultimate goal for me would be that our apprentices on a training course are shown this sort of stuff, because it's really, really relevant. And I think actually I've talked enough anyway. I can go on for ages. I'll pause there, I think.
So yeah, thanks, Adam. Let's lead into talking about some secondary prevention type stuff. And we are very early on in this journey. I saw a question pop up about scaffolders fitness and wellness, and we are looking at some resistant exercise training information. That's a project that Chris is working on, and we're even looking into gout and the causes of gout and how to manage gout. So yes, we are. But back to sprains and strains. I think there was a question about the unreported injuries, and yeah, it was an issue. It was an issue within the company that I worked in until I introduced a pain and discomfort form. Some bright guy a number of years ago developed a whole range of tools for ACC. I think his name was Chris, and I learned back there to use that tool, and at ISS we've introduced the pain discomfort form. We get early reporting, early recognition of sprains and strains, and it's been so successful that particularly one of our branches, our workers even reported their injuries from in the weekend, rugby, etc. So we were able to manage those people in the workplace, put them on lighter duties. Yeah, you've got lighter alternative duties that people can be doing. keeping them off the scaffold so they're not climbing and that. And as Adam said, all these resources are available on the CHASNZ website. And the early reporting, how it works is the person reports their pain or discomfort. They score it on a scale from 0, no pain, to 10 being the worst pain. You sit down, the manager and supervisor sits down with the worker, discuss what they were doing, how they got injured, or partially injured, if you'd like to use a different term. And then we monitor them every day. We monitor how they're going, if their discomfort is improving, so their pain score is going down, staying the same, or if it's going up. And then if it's no change and it's going up, we get them off to physio. Don't take them to the doctor, take them to the physio. They're the experts, they're the professionals who know what to do about sprains and strains. We get them to the physio and we get them treated. Our company in particular, we use a third party to help us do that because we're spread out so many different locations. But if you're a small company, yeah, go down and talk to your physio, get an arrangement that they get priority booking, get them in and get them treated. And yeah, there's plenty of things that they can be doing back in the workplace around learning, just helping around the office admin, planning, reviewing documents. So, yep, manage it. Conversation, daily conversations with your workers until they're 100% fit again.
We're kind of indicating there's no manual for this available. The solutions are not very well researched or documented. So what we have found is the industry's just come to the party with its own innovation. And what you see in this picture is a really easy to set up solution for the age-old problem of trying to handle gear on and off trucks, having to jump on and off trucks all the time to do it. And it's an extremely unsafe practice. So using scaffold gear that's already available on a scaffold truck, Jeeves, one of the leading companies in New Zealand, have created this fantastic ramp that they build. It takes about 5 minutes to construct and destruct after every job. And it just totally changes the design of this work and makes it a whole lot safer and a whole lot easier. Other innovations include this one that we've seen at ISS, who custom build a trolley. If they have to move scaffold gear over long horizontal distances, they won't carry it, they will move it on wheels. So again, using scaffold gear that's all around us, we can construct trolleys that get gear off our shoulders and protect us. You know, if you had any ideas on these things, Adam, and any feedback.
Absolutely. Again, we're trying to offer some solutions. The ramp on the truck is great, and one of our Wellington crews, you know, we put that to the workers just as a bit of a challenge. Actually, it was really great what they come up with when you give them a task like that. You know, gamify the thing. But one of our Wellington guys is like, oh, they'll never work in Wellington. Well, there are plenty of jobs where it will. So the day that you can, use it. We tried to make it out of gear that was already on the truck, so there was no special piece that you forgot back at the yard. You know, it's relatively simple to do, and then just encourage it. So there are plenty of times where these innovations you see in front of you may not work, but there are plenty of times it will too. So, you know, selecting what's sort of right for your business, what's right for your crew.
Yeah,
it's always been a selection of things, not just the answer, right?
I think it's also links back into what Vadim was talking earlier on about the planning well, planning the jobs before you get out to site. What will work and what won't work.
A couple of other innovations as well that we did a really good trial on electronic wheelbarrows. So again, another method of moving scaffold, especially small scaffold pieces, that can be mechanised. So as Vadim says, on some sites, an electronic wheelbarrow might just be the answer. And on the bottom left there, you'll see scaffold stored upright. That was an innovation that was generated in New Zealand, and you see the upright scaffolding you see there is from Elliott Scaffolding down in Christchurch, who are a very innovative company. And if we have a look on the next slide, they have completely redesigned the scaffolding truck to store basically and transport gear in an upright position, so it never goes into a horizontal position requiring very difficult handling at different heights. Basically, the scaffolding is taken from an upright position in storage and put in an upright position right onto the truck and taken to site and taken off the truck in an upright position and placed in position. So eliminating a lot of manual handling, a lot of double handling. We were so impressed with the design of this truck and the innovation that it actually received the first Work Should Not Hurt Innovation Award that was ever given out. So we can redesign work, we can make it better, we can make it smarter and more productive. So lastly, but not leastly, how can you learn lessons from the industry and take some of these things forward into your industry? Well, I'll start the ball rolling. I think basically, as we're indicating, you can't get anywhere without participation of your workers and your industry. So survey your workers. The wall of pain that you saw in the slides is available to download, and it's as simple as asking your workforce to pop a sticker on the wall of pain where they feel their discomfort and injury problems. It's a very strong way of getting information and buy-in from your team. Secondly, use our factors model to identify the factors that you're going to address, the factors that are contributing to your aches and pains in your trade or your industry. Have a look at the very obvious physical factors and document them, but also delve into the psychosocial factors that play a part when they combine, especially with physical factors. Have a look at the way you're organising your work. Vadim, have you got any last tips on that?
No, sorry, I was just actually thinking about how you identify your factors, and it's what we've found through our incident reporting too is that we got a pretty good near-miss incident reporting type of culture now, but one trend I found is that when someone reports a manual handling or a body stressing injury, it's not a near-miss, it's the event. So we might have a larger number of near-miss incidents, but when it comes to actually reports from body stressing, they're the event. And the other thing is too is that if you don't have a reporting culture, that's fine. Listen to how your people are talking to you. It could just be, oh man, I'm a bit stiff, didn't sleep too well last night. Bro, you're limping, They may not be filling in the incident report form because we've never made it an acceptable type injury to report, right? Or an incident to report. You don't have it essentially on that list of big 5 things to watch out for that could really hurt someone. So you might have to just use the other senses on your head to try and pick up what's going on out there. Sorry, it was just a thought I had. Thought I'd share that.
I think
No
also,
worries.
just to touch on what you were saying about those psychosocial factors as well, Chris, and someone brought it up in the questions a little bit earlier on in the piece, but just around, there's always going to be factors around non-reporting, but it's those factors as well that they've raised, which is the whole story. So the family and friends, you're having to think about the impact of those injuries on them as well, potential financial pressures that come off the back of if you are injured, what that can mean financially for their families as well. New Zealand is predominantly a 2-income family household now, so the pressures have changed about making sure that you are fit and ready to be a part of your family outside of the workspace. And I don't know what some of the pains these boys are going through, but I sleep funny, and if my my neck's gone for 2 days, then I'm grumpy as shit while it's happening. So I can't imagine some of the pains that these guys are going through while still trying to fend through it to make sure that they're there for their family, not only financially, but you know, and that family kind of piece as well. So thinking about how you can kind of prevent them from getting to that step, so those other stresses are potentially not a factor for them, or a less of a factor at least, is hopefully going to kind of lessen how far they actually take that injury as well.
Excellent. So yeah, the other things, just to have a consideration about thinking about things that we can do to prevent injury just before work ever happens. So for scaffolding, it was the yards, how we lay out our yards, how we design our truck, how we plan our work, how we quote for our work. So putting that into construction speak, maybe you've got to look at your trucks, maybe your vans, how are we setting those up? How are we quoting for work? Are we considering mechanising the task to make it easier? Where can we get our truck parked on the site? Does it have preference? All of those things that we can do before work even starts to make the chances of an injury, a strain or a sprain, a hell of a lot less. Dave, do you have some final words on the prevention, secondary prevention?
Yeah, I think, you know, I can't reiterate that the setting up the early reporting, the pain and discomfort reporting, getting people off to physio is key to it. In addition to that, we focused on reporting of positive safety behaviours and just reporting. And we acknowledged that. I guess there's some, you know, good barbecues and that have been had for achieving, you know, at least 2 observations, safety observations a month, that type of reporting. And from that, we tried not to put things in boxes like, is it an MS, is it an injury in that? And we found that we actually got more, like Adam said, more injuries, minor injuries and that reported. And that helps you to be able to identify those risks and the actions around what's causing those minor injuries that you wouldn't otherwise even have heard about. So yeah, focus on that. Definitely there's a lot more in the pipeline, like I mentioned before, resistance exercise training, information on the gout. You've got the t-shirt trials. You haven't seen the end of this program yet. So keep tuned into that CHASNZ website, and yeah, anybody wants to touch base with me at any time, please feel free.
The upshot of it is that we have to remind our workers that there is more to life than work, and their bodies have to be optimally functioning in both environments. And so really protect yourself for what's really important in life. And if that's catching a fish or shooting a deer, then it's even more reason to not hurt ourselves at work.
Could I just something that I feel really strong about, and obviously we do and try to roll out. There's some resistance to it, but the pre-planning discussion that our crews have, we talk about pre-planning by the management team or the commercial team, but to take that 10 minutes or 5 minutes to walk around the site and plan the site for, you know, controlling the key risk, but at the same time the best movement of the gear, does give you the opportunity to do that pre-start stretching that we really do encourage. We believe it makes a big difference. In fact, one of our premium teams consider themselves, you know, a bit of an All Blacks team. They liken themselves to being, you know, a high performing, you know, winning team, and that includes the stretch and the warm and then the pre-start talk. It's they fashion it against how they prepare for a rugby game, and God bless them for it. But you know, talking about risks and hazards and how your day's been while you're stretching is a pretty good thing to do. So yeah, I just want to put that out there. It's a resource that is underutilized. I believe it's something we encourage and we support. And I don't have any data to say that it decreases injuries, but having the guys feeling like they're a high performing team and start the day with that is just good cordial anyway.
Yeah, I think, passing around that rugby ball or whatever they do, it gives you another opportunity to identify anybody that might be carrying an injury, whether it's work or non-work, and then the supervisor can have a conversation with them.
Hey, thanks everyone. Look, there's a couple of questions that have rolled through. I've just got a more general one, first of all, just for Chris P. We've talked a lot about scaffolding today, and obviously that was where we started this program. Can you just quickly give us an overview of what other industries we're currently working with and where we're going?
Of course, Chris, we have around about 10 specialist trades in that we're really focusing on, but all trades are welcome for the Work Should Not Hurt program. There are programs for roofers, painters, drain layers, gas fitters. There are programs for carpenters. There are programs for concrete workers, floorers. Have a look on our website. You'll see the breadth of customised programs that we're running at the moment.
Great. And question probably for Dave and Vadim. From a business perspective, other than I guess, looking after our people from an ethical and moral point of view, what do you see the commercial advantages of engaging in a program like this?
Yeah, there's many, I guess. Obviously, productivity, if your workforce you've got 100% of your workforce, out there working, productivity is certainly a gain. Certainly in the ACC area, experience ratings, I think Chris put up some figures there, average of 33, 36 days off for these injuries. That has a huge financial impact on your ACC experience ratings. So if you can reduce that and get 100% of the rebates, that's worth, that can be worth thousands of dollars to your business. So, and morally, just morally doing the right thing, as you mentioned, for your workers, you be seen as a good employer, and perhaps that will influence getting staff easier.
We're in a pretty competitive industry. There's still quite a bit of work out there, but while we're putting in quotes 2 or 3 tenders, part of a tender submission of 2 to 3 companies, I think where the commercial manager might find a point of difference to reduce lost time, gain efficiencies, would be where we could talk about how we can get that crew in there to work smoother and faster, and not wandering around trying to figure out how they're going to get gear movements, not standing there with a box of beer trying to talk to the crane driver and get the crane driver to lift some gear for them, actually get that sorted well before the team turn up. And our high-up operators, and not just in our industry, I talked to some concrete pump people too, and their biggest anxiety heading to a site, they tell me, and you could imagine if you haven't talked to them, is when they get to site, they feel they're going to be able to put an outrigger onto a footpath or out on the road, or kids are going to be walking by because it's near a school. And that's huge anxiety for them. And so that pressure to get in and try to get the job done, and that sort of feeling and that fatigue that weighs down, that can have a huge effect. And I believe a social sort of impact on how they work. So reducing that, planning, thinking of clever ways to solve the problem, and not just relying on our workers turning up and using their charm and their good wit and their smarts to try and make their job easier. I visit our guys all the time and I say things like, not productivity, not efficiency. What are you doing today to make your job easier? What are you doing today that's smart, clever? And it could be, we dropped some decks across that trench to save us walking a long way around. Good on your boys, We created a ramp to get up with the concrete slab, so we'd have to take a big step while we've got stuff on our shoulders. Good on you. So, yeah, you can imagine the efficiencies of clever and smart planning.
So I think we've answered Mark's question around, yes, we are looking at programs or information to help scaffolders maintain their fitness for work. I think there's one question here again from Mark. Is there any evidence that wearing harnesses and tools contribute to injuries due to extra weight or restricting movement? That's probably a Chris Blatchik question, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything, but interestingly enough, we have tested wearing a full scaffolders harness with a exoskeleton and a scaffolders tool belt, and it all works together. But as you say, cumulatively, that puts about an extra maybe 6 kgs on your body, maybe 7 kgs that you're wearing. Usually scaffolders don't wear the harness unless they're going up high and they need to hook up. So they'll put it on then, and they won't wear it generally when they're loading on the ground, from the ground. Right.
I've got some insight to share. Given that when I was wearing a harness and tool belt in my younger years, I looked more like a Clydesdale with a harness on than with a yoke on than anything. But they're made of much more lightweight and forgiving materials these days, the harnesses. And I'm really pleased to see that a lot of the tool suppliers to our industry can supply tool belts that are weight belts inclusive, so they actually support the lower back, and a few of our team do wear those. So I think that our harnesses and the technologies that come into the manufacture of them have become lighter and way more user friendly with some of the padding, so that they make sure that the load points are in the stronger parts of the body. And that the tool belts themselves can be used as part of the solution rather than the problem. But I always talk to our scaffolders as to why they load themselves up with all the tools they do sometimes. It's a matter of, just picking the few tools you need for the task till the lunch break to try and reduce the amount of weight they do carry. So while there might not be any data, it has been recognised by our people that it can be cumbersome and quite a chore. The relief when you take the tool belt off at lunchtime type thing.
I think we've answered the pre-start warm-up questions. Anything else you want to add to that, Chris, though, on that pre-start warm-up or stretching? Any other points?
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got the truck there. Most companies do a pre-start. You've got the truck. We can stretch and warm up off there. Great guy, Regan from Jeeves, will actually tell you about what he does, the head-to-toe warm-up. And as Dave said, he cleverly loses that warm-up to test if everybody's got their full movements and if they're fighting fit to work. And if not, they can get placed on another place in the work process. So warm-ups are, they're here to stay in this industry anyway.
Right, and friend of the show, Anna Galvin, asked a question around, do you have any resources to address or discuss easier access points and decreasing manual handling when you're engaging clients as part of planning the work? Maybe that's, again, Dave and Adam, how you're finding that conversation to start off with clients before the work starts.
Sorry, that was for more the user of the scaffold type question, is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Well, then that's an excellent question, and I think a point of difference for our companies are the ability to supply staircases instead of ladders alone. That's a huge thing for some of our companies or some of our crew supplying the jobs. You chuck a staircase into an average house job, mate, and the builder's never going to ask for a ladder again after that. But also more increasingly is a small loading bay, which is a platform that's a little bit wider, where gear can be passed up, the roofer can stack materials at the platform and then onto into the place of work, just to help them. We've worked in with brickies, our block layers and bricky cousins who want to use the scaffolds, where we can adapt the scaffold slightly so that their mechanical conveyors can be used to load bricks up onto the scaffold as well. So look, scaffies are really good problem solvers. We don't know what to solve unless we know what the problem is. So yeah, client communication, so that coordination of the job beforehand can promote a whole bunch of really clever solutions. But yeah, I think the introduction of staircases on almost every scaffold we see is just probably an example of one of the better innovations, and that one's client driven. That one is definitely the builder saying, "Give me a staircase, mate."
We're time for one more question from the field, just on orthotics. Has there been any work done with orthotics to help support loads put through to feet?
Not orthotics specifically, but we have studied lightweight boots, and very promising results from our lightweight boots trial, where we had a pair of boots that meet safety specifications, but they were 900 grams for a pair, which is usually about 2.5 kgs your boots weigh on a construction site. And some amazing results occurred by taking that weight off the feet. So I'm sure orthotics would be a positive thing. And I think most advanced tradies will pop a pair in their boots to make them more comfortable, but nothing studied yet.
I would.
Sorry.
Workplace health and safety show, but there was an orthotics company there that I'm actually hoping to get along to our conference this year, because I think in terms of actually getting their data specifically, because they were working specifically with construction companies, the hope was to tee these two up and see what can be done in that space as well.
Yep. Orthotics, I can talk a bit about them because I did a lot of work about that when I was working in the dairy manufacturing industry with the workers, basically standing on concrete floors all day in gumboots, and we found that they really love them, orthotics. Some of the boots you buy nowadays, they actually come with an extra inner sole orthotic in the sole that you can fit into the boot. And of course, some people need specialised orthotics, depending on their individual, makeup of their foot. So yeah, it's certainly worth probably spending some more time looking at orthotics.
Awesome, Dave. I just
believe it.
what our observation was really quickly, because what an awesome bunch of questions. So the requirement to have steel caps always dictated the type of boot we had, but it's so awesome to see now the products out there. I estimated only, a bit of a daydreamer, but I reckon our people walk as many Ks in a day as most dock workers, and they get those awesome ass hiking boots, right? Those really cool looking things. And given that some of our people are hunters too, they understand the difference between steel cap boots and these hiking boots, but you can actually get them now. So my challenge to our commercial managers is, stop trying to get those cheap boots, the cheap ones, spend some money. These guys spend a lot of time on their feet. They walk a lot of Ks. And by the way, that 9 ton that turns up on the 10-ton truck, how do you think they got from there to there? So not only are they walking plenty of Ks, they're carrying a bit of gear on their shoulders to do it. So spend some time, get the salespeople to come out too. I tell you, that's an awesome toolbox talk. Seriously, these sales reps for these big, health and these safety PPE companies, they're happy to come out and show you ranges of boots. And they're the questions you'll be asking about comfort and longevity through the day. Sorry.
Hey, guys, we've reached the end of our time. Believe it or not, I know we'd go for another hour if we could, but look, I'd just like to thank everyone. My final point, really, just before everyone signs off, is all this stuff is free on the CHASNZ website. So, look, if we're really looking for organisations and businesses to engage with us. I know there's only one Chris Pilarczyk at the moment, but soon there's going to be 2. So we've actually just duplicated them within CHASNZ, so we have a lot more capacity going forward. And we are looking at other ways of actually scaling this program by creating sort of training available for the field, which we hope to be rolling out with partners over the next sort of year or so. So look, it's a really exciting part for us. It's all replicable. I really want to thank Tina from CHASNZ for actually being the first organisation to sort of really sort of come to grips with this. And David and Vadim for being such an integral part of getting this thing off the ground, because to be honest, if Chris couldn't work with you guys, then we would be right back at square one, to be honest. And what a great team to actually start with. So look, that's it from us today. I'll let everyone go back. Thanks to everybody who's attended, and we'll have this up on the website next week. Cheers, everyone.